And hi, everyone, and good evening. Welcome to the fourth Arts and Letters event, sponsored by Art Presence Art Center in Jacksonville, Oregon. It's an odd perk of that pesky pandemic that we can increase our audience and see you all here tonight. Please open your Zoom chat window and connect with us and type any questions into that chat window. Arts and Letters presents local artists and authors in their element. On May 28th at 5 p.m., Kristen Laura Weber, one of my favorite local authors and wise women, will return to Arts and Letters to share insights on the art of memoir writing. I'll start the event with my take on the difference between autobiography and memoir. And Kristen, author of several memoirs among her prolific writings, will explore the path she takes to present her stories. And on June 11th, I have the pleasure of interviewing our Art Presence director, Ann Brooke, retired nurse, teacher, calligrapher, watercolorist, and the instigator of Art Presence Art Center 9 years ago. Tonight, we bring you Diane Wallace, author of On the Amazon, a true adventure story about a 5-day trip down the Amazon River while traveling alone for 2 months in South America. Diane Wallace is an author, artist, world traveler, and constant collector of information. As Diane says, some of that information becomes a story, and some of it becomes an art project. She describes herself as a creator of things. I would call her a maker. And these things include books, kimonos, paintings, costumes, or even wire sculptures. Her articles have appeared in numerous publications, and her costumes have swept across theater stages from Washington State to Southern Oregon. Ms. Wallace, who lives in Jacksonville, Oregon, holds a bachelor's degree in textile, design, and business. Diane has created a show and tell evening. She'll take us through the creation of Ant in the Amazon. Diane.
I think I'm on. Hi, people, friends, and family. I had to pay some family members to watch this, but they're there. So I have an adult beverage. Here's cheers to anyone who has one. I'm doing this is, well, I'm a little nervous because I've never done this before. And if I flounder, you can laugh as much as you want because I can't hear you. So anyway, Jenna calls me an author, but I don't really feel like an author. You know, I have this book, or what it turned into, but it was actually a transition of a lot of things. It started in 1999. I just wrote a simple story for my niece, just a little story to give her so she would feel like she could travel and not be afraid when she was older. She was 11 at the time. Her first trip solo was when she was 16, so I guess it worked. Anyway, I took the story to my friend's first grade class on Whitby, Lynn James. And the kids liked it so well, she thought I should put a little book together, and they kept requesting it. So I succumbed to peer pressure. And the first thing I did was a mock-up. And this is ridiculous because I just made this on my computer. And it's just English, and it has some really terrible photos in there, not very clear, of my trip. So there's that. And then I experimented with fonts, and then I'm not sure if I just set it back down and didn't do it for a while, because this is 20 years from this. I'm going to show you the end result. This little thing turned into this. And this is bilingual, and it's a true story, and it's a coloring book, which I hadn't intended at all. So after this one, I did another one because there weren't enough photos. And so I thought, well, I'll just get some photos off the internet. So I went on the internet and got some extra photos. And I just used them and I put them in here. There's that frog I just pulled off the internet. So fortunately, my friend Cynthia who's a lawyer, says, you can't just use photos on the internet. It's like, why not? Intellectual property. It's like, and what's that? Okay, so this is a whole learning process for me. I didn't know anything about anything. So at this point, this little mock-up has stolen pictures, and it's the same in English, and I'm just kind of fooling around with it. I don't even know if I'll do anything with this. So there's that. So then it's like, oh, well, my friend worked for Getty Images. He says, you gotta like buy some stock photos. I didn't know what they were, so I shopped. So I shopped for stock photos on Dreams Time and Getty Images, and I bought the rights to use some of those. So then it's at that stage. Okay, so I have some stock photos. But then I go to Mexico. And I don't know what year it was, because we're talking 20 years. But I end up in Bucerias, Mexico, and I decide I'm going to take a Spanish class. So I take one from a man named Arturo Sierra. You might be listening, I don't know. And he charged $5 an hour for Spanish lessons at a coffee shop. So I took lessons and I thought, let's translate this for my Spanish lesson. So that was where it started to become Spanish. And then I get back. And it sits around for a little longer, for a long time on Whidbey Island. And then I move down here. And then I decide I need an English-speaking person to do another translation. And I hired my friend Cynthia Steele at the University of Washington, who I neglected to put in the acknowledgments because I didn't even know I had to have any acknowledgments when it got to the point of being published. So we have a second translation, and then I have the brilliant idea of why not have separate books? I'm going to have a Spanish book and an English book. So now I have these two books with photos and my notes. I'm going to show you a stock photo in a minute. So now I have these, and I printed these in Medford and didn't realize how costly it was to print color and two books. And I thought, well, that's not going to work. That's like way too expensive. So then it goes back to one book. And then I get the stock photos. I'm going to show you just a quick stock photo. I'm going to show you another one later, just in case nobody dealt with this. So I bought this Cayman. Okay, it's in black and white here because I was too cheap to print in color for this mock-up sketch. And I wanted it to look adventurous, like a comic book. That didn't happen. It's got a whole different look. But my favorite stock photo, let me find it in here. Okay, I spent hours looking for photos, but I loved this spider. So I have this spider. You'll see it in color later. Okay, now, why did I want to do this in Spanish? I have no idea. But I think I wanted to do in Spanish because it's so pretty. I'm not bilingual. I have a terrible accent. I communicate really well with bad Spanish. But it's, in any of you Spanish-speaking friends of mine, when I read, I'm only going to read one sentence as a comparison here. I think that's enough for now. But I'm going to pronounce it wrong. But I just wanted to show you why I thought Spanish was pretty. Well, for instance, just the title. Okay, so Aunt in the Amazon. In Spanish, it's La Tía en la Selva Amazonica. It sounds pretty. So this is a little tiny sentence about the sounds in the jungle. In English, in the Amazon jungle, there were birds peeping, frogs croaking, insects buzzing, turtles dunking, and hundreds of other unknown creatures making their peculiar sounds. Okay, in Spanish, había pájaros cantando, ranas croando, insectos zumbando, tortugas sumergiéndose y cientos más de criaturas extrañas emitiendo sus sonidos peculiares en la selva amazónica. It just sounds pretty. It may not be unto your ears, but it is to mine. Okay, so there's that. And then we get to, oh, well, if I'm going to have a book, well, what am I going to do? So when I did that double book, I had researched lots of different book styles. And, I would pick something up like this and go, oh, I kind of like this book. And so I would get ideas from all these other books that I found. And I thought this was a pretty good look. My book the end book I have looks nothing like that. You can't see it, but I'll show it to you later. It looks nothing like this original book. Maybe the back does. There's some like real photographs on the back just to show that this is a true adventure story. I found out that kids don't believe in these stories. When I read the story to my friend's class, they said, that's not you. It's like, yes, it is. They wouldn't believe it was me, even though there was a photograph. So I wanted to try to make something real that kids could look at and families and see that, yeah, this happens in reality. Okay, well then it's at this point and I decide I can't afford all those photographs. I can't print that. Well, maybe I should draw them. Well, I'm not an artist. And it's like, well, I think I could figure something out. So I started trying to draw them and I was struggling and I wasn't getting anywhere fast. So I decided to get a book. So I get this book. Okay? And I study it and I try to teach myself how to draw. But you know what? That's not really what got me going. It was really attending a drink and draw class at this local bookstore called Rebel Hearts. And there was a graphic artist there. I can't recall his name, sorry. But you'd go in there and I thought I would get some tips. So I brought my drawings, the few I had, and told them what I was trying to do. And I said, I need to cheat. I need a trick here. I need something to help me do this. And I had brought this like picture of a monkey. And he says, you just do it old school. Get your pencil, graphite the back, put it down, do a few outlines and go from there. Now, for some reason, that is all I needed to get going. But I just took so long to do all this. But what really helped, I think, were the 2 pints of beer that I drank there while I was drawing, because it was a drink and draw and I like IPAs, and he brought some growlers. So I take this back. I've got all my stuff. I buy pencils, I buy colored pencils, and I'm drawing and drawing. And then it's like, what am I going to do with this? So I make a mock-up and I decide this isn't going anywhere. I need some help. So I like to hire local people. So I found Lucky Valley Press and Jenna and Gordon. And I have to tell you, this would still be in a box somewhere with dust if I hadn't done this. And what I'm trying to do with the pictures, it wasn't supposed to be a coloring book. The pages were supposed to be like a reconfirmation of what was said the page before. Like in here, it'll say, I'm going to read a little bit here. It says, there were snakes in her Amazon bath. I'm only going to do the English part because we don't have a lot of time. There were snakes in her Amazon bath. It was a natural jungle bathing place. Just before dark, Aunt was desperate for a bath. She was stinky and sweaty from her jungle walk. She had asked her guide, Javier, about taking a bath or shower, and he took her to a small, muddy river. Her guide told her that in the jungle, everyone took baths in the small rivers by their stick houses. So the next page has this picture of a snake, and it says, it's hard to bend this out there, it's big. It says, there are snakes in the river. Okay, so that's just a confirmation for the 2-year-olds that are with the family that I want to scare with this book. No, actually, it's supposed to be a little scary, but a little funny. Okay, and then, unlike this one, Aunt decided to go in the river because she was unbearably hot. She wore plastic shoes and a swimsuit. Aunt would take no chances going in without clothes. A caiman might try to bite her bare bottom, and she would be very embarrassed jumping out of the river with no clothes on. Aunt did not like running around naked in the jungle. So then I would have a drawing like that in there, you know, swimsuit and shoes. So it's really, the pictures to me were exclamation points. Here's what I'm talking about, and here's a visual. I'm a visual person. So I like to, if I see things, I remember them. Okay, so that's what I thought this was about. But in order to have that concept, Jenna kept saying, we need more pictures. We need more pictures. We need more pictures. So this whole project goes from a tiny little sketch in English that's not even 20 pages with big font to a 70-page coloring book that is bilingual. So that's how that happened. And when you design, and then I went on to the design. So when you design a coloring book, well, how do you do it? I don't know. You research it. So I researched techniques, okay? And well, most coloring books have, you know, a partially colored, there it is. They have a partially colored part. So it probably took me, you know, 6 months to decide, oh, which part do I color? So I colored all sorts of things. I had people color things. This is a group project. I had children color the front page. I had friends color. There was actually one common thing. Everybody wanted to see the alligator green. Everybody colored that. So in the end, I decided to not go up and down, not go sideways. I went diagonally. So it goes this way. I thought that would be different. And I put the alligator green. I guess this is a traditional way to design a coloring book, which I knew nothing about. So I did that. I had everybody coloring. And then it's like, oh, well, what frame color should I use? So I did a miniature front cover, and I did all these frames, and I took them to probably 10 or 15 people and overlaid it. And I think I had a little mini hand colored one, and they would choose, and hands down, this purple color won. That hands down, it was the favorite. So we're going to do a mock-up, and we do a mock-up with the color. Well, they don't have that color, so you have to make another choice because the printing company doesn't have the exact color that you've printed off the internet. So it ended up being aubergine. Okay, so I wanted to show you the just a couple of these. Like this is my favorite one. Where is that one? This. Okay, my friend's daughter colored this one, and so you can see I did not use it for the front cover, but it was a good attempt for a 7-year-old. All right. So anyway, so I did a lot of those pages, and then I was going to explain how I did the drawings and I was going to show you another stock photo. What I did is I would take a picture. I would take a picture like this. Now, this is a terrible picture, but that's me in there with my guides on the bus boat that goes down the river. And there's hammocks and there were goats. It's like, well, that's kind of a boring look. So I have to make something that children might think is fun. So I find a goat like this. Now, I think that I won't get sued for this goat because it changed drastically, because I took the goat, did the sketch out, and drew it, and then I shrunk it. And this picture became this. I don't know if it's hard to get it up there. So this is goats don't like hammocks. So it was just like this each picture took a minute to figure it out. But I was going to show you this other one too, because I spent most of my time doing this sort of thing, not writing. The writing must have taken 2 days. I spent all my effort with this design and doing this. And I'll just show you this one. Okay, this is my favorite one. I love this spider. It was hard to find a scary spider. But the whole point of this story is to revolve around a scream I heard in the middle of the Amazon jungle late at night, and why I was so afraid. And it's a story that's supposed to help people realize that life is kind of ridiculous. You may be so afraid because you hear something scream, and it goes through your mind over and over, like, whoa, maybe it was a jaguar. And then I'd tell a story about a jaguar, and then I try to loop back in. It was really hard to keep a story looping through and try to keep in mind children. And you want them to be a little bit scared, but you want them to laugh and not be afraid at the end. And the moral of the story is, you know, I was afraid of a chicken, and chickens aren't scary. So this whole time the house is shaking. You know, it literally, I hear a scream, I wake up, the house is shaking. It's like, it's coming for me, whatever it is. And after a while, and I had to go to the restroom, but I wasn't going outside. And it turned out they were chickens roosting under this building. So that was the whole concept behind this. But I'm going to show you one other pit drawing too, because they're all different. Well, I'm thinking I missed one. Okay, this is the real boat. And all I did was do a little graphite, and then I removed a lot of information. But I blew these pictures up to like 400% in my paint program. I must have spent months with a little eraser cleaning and tidying up all the graphite that smeared so I could get a clear image. So I'm like this with my computer for months. So that took longer than writing it, just an eraser and cleaning it up. And then I had one other thing, because I'm supposed to chat for about 30 minutes, I guess. And this is it. This is it. Okay, I had to come up with filler things. So I use things like a roll of toilet paper. But there's one, okay, I digress. One thing I wanted to mention, when it got to the end to publishing it, and it's all in Spanish, and trying to get all this done, I was saved by a woman named Char Preto, who's at Chico State, a professor, and I just ran into her, and she says, I'll translate it for free. And she did an excellent job. But Jenna and I don't know if maybe it was just me, I didn't realize that you had to have acknowledgments, bios, all the legal stuff in Spanish too. Didn't cross my mind. So we had to race back, and I had to get this all taken care of. But I didn't even think about any of that. What's an ISBN? Is that what that book thing is? Anyway, this was a college class. This was like a 15-year class. And I think I got a passing grade, but it took a long time to get here. And thanks to Jenna, I made it, and David. All right, I'm done. Am I done?
Well, you may be done with that, but I have a couple of questions.
I'm ready. Let me take a sip of wine here.
Take a sip of wine. If anyone has a question, be sure to type it into the chat window, and I will translate it from Spanish to English for Diane.
Oh, you speak Spanish?
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I have two questions for you. One is, I think people would like to hear about the trip itself.
Oh.
And what got you out there by yourself. You were journeying through South America, and you end up on this trip. And I'd like you to describe the house, because I know that it's a little sort of shack on sticks in the Amazon.
I know. So, I actually have a picture of it to show you.
Okay, so talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the reason I went to Peru is because I suddenly bought a house on Whidbey Island that had tenants. And I thought, I can just put all my stuff in storage and come back when the tenants move out. So I just got a ticket for 2.5 months I went into Peru, and I guess I went to Bolivia too. I went all over the place. But I've gotten used to traveling alone because who's going to go with you at a moment's notice? And so I decided just to go to Iquitos. And while I'm there, there are a lot of like trip hawkers and visit my camp. So when I was actually in Iquitos for New Year's Eve, and I was partying like it was 1999 because it was. Anyway, someone said, "You want to go on this trip at this camp?" And I go, "Oh, is it a bunch of people, a group?" Yeah, they're all agreeable. I get on this bus boat because I signed up for this trip. It was $50 a day. I thought that was great for room and board for five, every day. Well, 5 hours down, I'm like, there weren't any other tourists. I was like the only non-native local on this bus boat. And I'm thinking, well, it's too late now. And they just took me to this house. I think they lived there or they owned it. You could homestead in the jungle. And so that's what they had done. And so they had said there was a bed and all this. The bed was just a piece of bamboo. I don't even know if I had a blanket, but there was a net. So it was rustic. In fact, look, this is the drawing and the picture of the actual house. That's where I stayed. And it was one of the best trips I ever took. The men, the dad and the son with the machete, they took me on, jungle tours, explained all the herbal plants. It was great, actually.
The son and the machete?
The son and the dad, they had a machete and a gun. Well, the dad had the gun. I think the son had a machete when we went in the jungle, because you don't know what's going to happen out there. I mean, there were poisonous frogs. They were all over.
And you had this little house on sticks by yourself with the chickens
No,
underneath.
I think there were people there. The people who lived there, like a lady.
Oh, okay.
There were no other people. I was the only one there, besides the guides. And I don't even know where they slept. I'm in this just shack. It was a shack.
And why did you decide to write a story about this adventure?
It was basically for my niece. And you know what? This is just 5 days. This is the tepid version of my trip. Maybe I'll write the adult version later. I mean, I climbed Machu Picchu. I went all over the place. But I wanted to write this for my niece so she wouldn't be afraid of the world and cultures and going somewhere. It just popped into my mind. It was only on a couple of pages of paper when I read it to her.
And somebody asked what impact it had on your niece and any travel that she has done in the meantime.
Oh, she's traveled all over the place now. And as I mentioned earlier, she was going to Mexico at a young age. She hiked Table Rock at 2 months with her mom and dad. He was killing her. But the first solo trip I mentioned earlier, she asked her mom, "Can I go join Aunt Diane? I have these days off." She's in high school. And she was told if she bought half her ticket. So she came down. She bought half of her ticket, and the parents had to write permission. And she got on a plane at 16 and flew to, I think I picked her up in Puerto Vallarta. So she stayed with me for 10 days, and I put her back on the plane and sent her home. So yeah, I guess it did. I think it helped.
Someone asks, were there any downsides to this trip?
Oh, the whole trip? Yeah.
Well, you decide.
Tried taking a malaria pill on an empty stomach. I was sick several times. I think I got burned by like a little travel motorcycle, just injuries, small things. A downside, yeah, there was one scary story when somebody stole my passport, and I got it back, but it was a guy. It's like, oh, I've got your passport in my pocket. Because don't ever show your photograph to anybody in your passport. Oh, can I see your picture? Right in the pocket. I got it back though. So that was a scary thing.
As you said, the trip to South America was 2 months, right?
Yeah.
And so are there other stories or parts of that particular journey that you would write about or create something about?
It's possible, but I'm not sure. I have a lot of different things in my things to write folder, but it's possible. I mean, I could write a lot about Machu Picchu and just little parts about it, or even the political atmosphere. When I was in Iquitos, there had just been some coup and all these buildings were burned down, and I arrived just after this. And I could write more about just traditions, like for New Year's Eve they hung people they didn't like in effigy, like political figures. And so you see all these bodies hanging. That wasn't the kids' story part.
No.
And you could get into the cuisine more, like the New Year's drink was beer and Coca-Cola. That's what
Together?
together.
Ooh.
That was the drink. They blended it. It was terrible.
I guess. Tell me about the title.
Aunt in the Amazon. Well, when I chose that is because I didn't want a silly name. Like some of my friends said, oh, you should call it Auntie in the Amazon. You should call it Auntie Diane. It's like, no, it's not an Auntie Diane. It's just, and I like the sound of Aunt in the Amazon. And also, I didn't want my name on there because I wanted kids to read it, to get into it and think, well, maybe that's my aunt, because if she didn't have a name, it might be their own aunt in the jungle. And I thought they could relate to that better.
So, do you have any adventures in store? Any new ones?
Right now, because of, COVID. Oh, that's right. I forgot do I need my mask in case there's a computer virus? Okay, no, anyway. Right
you were waiting to do that, weren't you?
I was waiting to do that. But I've always had this life dream to just buy a world ticket. I have a lot of friends and family all over the world, and I'd just like to get one of those and go back, because I'd like to go back to Australia. I have a bunch of Greek cousins there. I only found them because I went to Greece by myself when I was 24. That was my first big trip. I went for 2 months. I'm going to Europe. I've never even been on a trip. I went for 2 months, and I was going to find my Greek relatives in Greece. I found them, and they sent all this information to Australia. And now I have 30 Greek cousins in Australia.
So what was your favorite part about that trip, the South America trip? What was the highlight?
I think it was this river trip. I loved it. And I really enjoyed climbing Machu Picchu. And it wasn't about getting there, because Machu Picchu is like, there it is, and it's fabulous. But the journey with 15 people and hiking, and we had such a great tour guide. He was so funny and so interesting. So it was more like a history. So the hike and the information and the process, I'm always more interested than processes than end results. I much prefer to fuss around, and once something's done, it's like, I'm over it. I'm going to do something different. But probably the river trip and the Amazon trip. And there is one funny story. I don't know where this fits in with your questions, but when I was on that river trip, we stopped. We're like 5 hours down the Amazon River, and we get in a little boat. I have no idea where we're going, a little tributary. I could never have gotten out of there by myself. We stop in this like little tent for lunch, and we have lunch, and I leave. I get to the boat and I look down. I stole someone's bag accidentally. I had some lady's purse, because she had this, what I call chicken bag. It's plastic and woven. I had one just like it, but it was in the boat. So I'm walking, so I looked at the guy. I took her bag. I got to take it back. So I had to, in my broken Spanish, say, oh, perdóname, esta es su bolsa. It parece es mío, or something. I can't even speak Spanish that well, but I think I just said it looks like me, or maybe I said it looks like mine. But anyway, I haven't spoken Spanish in a while, but I stole a bag accidentally. She thought it was funny. I had to return it. That was an embarrassing moment.
Okay, well, as a chef, of course, you know I have to ask this question.
Yeah.
What was your favorite food, and how was the food delivered on this trip? How did you deal with food?
Oh, the food in the jungle wasn't much because you told them, yeah, I eat eggs and chicken. It was very basic. It's just some vegetables, a little chicken. And one day, it's in the book too. It starts out, Aunt ate a tree for lunch. I did. I ate a tree for lunch. But that was lunch. We go into the jungle. He finds a nice palm tree, cuts it down, skins it, shreds it up into all these strips, gets some, I think he had lemon or something, puts it on there, and it was a palm tree salad. That was lunch. It was delicious. And then I had a wrapped fish in Iquitos, where they would steam fish in wrappers. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, I was invited to a dinner by my hotel person, and it was like this big fancy thing for me. I had already eaten. I didn't know I was going to dinner, so I had to try all these things. And I don't believe in this, but I ate a turtle egg and a turtle soup.
Mm-hmm.
But you're in this house and you're like this guest of honor. So I ate a lot of different things, and that was one of them. But I can't remember what the other ones were. But I think lots of like rice, chicken, vegetables, soups. It's just simple stuff.
But where did you eat? I mean, were they on the, what,
It
did
was
the
just, they just
guides
made
make
it.
it?
Yeah, they just made it and handed me a dish. I don't know if I was sitting on a stump outside. There really wasn't anything. I mean, there wasn't a kitchen, I don't think. They may have had a chopping table and a woman servant-y kind of lady, or maybe it was a wife. I don't know what she was. It was very mysterious.
Did they wake you up with a cup of coffee?
Oh no, I think there was zero coffee out there. I don't even know. I don't remember having coffee out there. I remember water, eggs, chicken, and palm tree.
And the palm tree.
That's what I remember mainly about the food there.
So Lynn James says, fantastic presentation, Diane. She remembers when you read the story to her class.
I know.
And
It's
how
her
much
fault.
they loved it.
It's her fault. It's her fault I did it.
Someone else asked how you plan to share this message with this story with the world. And part of the point of publishing this book and working with Diane was to give it an ISBN number and get it into global distribution. So I can say one of my favorite lines, you can get Diane's book wherever books are sold. It's in the Ingram catalog. It is online. It's on every retail sales place in the world. It's available at Art Presence Art Center in Jacksonville. It's also, I presume, at Rebel Heart Books and other places locally. But you can find it, and you can find perhaps signed copies by Diane at Art Presence. I don't think you signed those copies, but
I'll do it.
You just stop by and do that, okay? And so it is really truly available everywhere. And I have to say, I think this was one of our most, it was complicated to produce this book, but It was a very rewarding book to do because of its bilingual nature and the fact that it really, it's a coloring book for kids and adults, and the story is, it's a true story, and it's based on someone's very true adventure. So we really enjoyed working on it and developing all of those little parts that made it into a story coloring book. So I would just like to suggest to you, Diane, that you don't ever stop.
Okay, well, I probably won't stop, but we didn't, I don't know if we mentioned that we were all geared up and I wanted to print it on my niece's birthday. And what was it? 2 minutes before quarantine. So then it's like everything just fell flat for a year and a half. It's like, we're back. We're going to try this again.
Yes. Well, it's delightful to have you with us. You're a wonderful presenter and you're full of information. Oh, I do have one other question I'd like to ask you.
Most
and that
certainly.
is, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your, I haven't been to the haunted history tour here in Jacksonville, but I know that you developed some of the costumes, and are part of one of the tableaus. Is that correct? When they do the haunted history tour on the trolley?
Yeah, well, the last one was 2 years ago because we couldn't do it again, but there is a video. Um, and I think my friend Laurel Bustamonte's online, and she was in there too. And we were brothel girls at the Griffin Park, but I spent 4 months volunteering for the Chamber of Commerce. I made so many sculptures, even considering even a life-size ghost horse. But the year before that, I was in it too, all volunteer. But the second year, when they realized what my skills were, it's like, here's 50 things to make us like, wow. I that's why I had to get carpal tunnel surgery. It wrecked my wrists. But you can see the last haunted trolley tour because it was videotaped and it has a soundtrack. It's the best one. It's better on video, actually. You just have to go to YouTube. Strange Things Happen in Jacksonville, haunted trolley.
That's the title of the...
Strange Things Happen in Jacksonville. That was the theme 2 years ago. And I don't know if we'll ever do it again, but I found the video more entertaining than the actual tour because they zoomed in and you could see everything and hear everything. But if you happen to watch it, I'm the woman in the red dress kicking her legs up at Doc Griffin Park trying to get some customers.
That is a really good place to end this talk.
All righty then.
I love it. Thank you so much, Diane. I really appreciate it. And I want to hear about your next adventures. And from all of the nice comments we've got, which we will save for you, I think everyone else would like to hear your adventures too.
Oh, I could be talking for 20 years.
I know. And that's why it's so interesting to have you, because there's so much inside you. I just want to bring it out and share it with people. So stick with us. We'll do it again. And just keep adventuring and creating and making things.
I will. Cheers.
Okay. Cheers to you too, my friend.
Cheers to everyone who watched this. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, dear.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.